Hey friends, today I am going to go through my March reading wrap up. I read 13 books this month, which is crazy. So I was going to tell you a little bit about each one and whether I think you should read them or not. So first I read Folly Beach by Dorothea Benton Frank. This is sweet. It's a romance with an older couple. She finds out that her husband, who has passed, was not as good a man as she thought. So she ends up pretty much homeless because he had taken all of their money. Long story short, she ends up moving to Folly Beach, where her family is from, and finds a man. And she's like in her 50s. So I would say if you are in that age range, this is a really sweet read. It wasn't quite where I'm at in life, so I didn't fully connect with it, but it was cute, and I could see why people would like it. Then I read Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. I loved this. However, I say that with a big asterisk because I almost stopped reading it because the language is really, really bad. If that doesn't bother you, go for it. I would also check the trigger warnings. This book is about domestic abuse, and it is extremely heavy. I've read books with this topic before, and they were not as hard to read as this. I ended up finishing this book and shaking because I was so emotionally drained after reading this book. I 100% want to finish the series. I loved it. It's just one that you need to be prepared to read. I didn't know what it was about when I pulled it to read, and if I had just pulled this off my shelf and just went for it, I would have been a little bit shell-shocked. So yes, you should read this if you're fine with what I had just said. So read with caution. I read 2 6-star reads this month, actually, not just this year, this month. This is one of them. Kristen Hanna Never Misses. Comfort and Joy was not my favorite of hers, but outside of that, she doesn't miss. This book, The Great Alone, oh my gosh, was incredible. This is also about domestic abuse, and I did not intentionally mean to read them back to back. So it was really heavy, 2 weeks that I was reading. But in this book, Lenny is a teenager who had a father that is coming home from war and has a lot of issues. And so they move to middle of nowhere, Alaska, to try to help him through a lot of his issues, but it ends up making it worse. And so you see her and her mom deal with the brunt of his abuse. Kristen Hanna is so good at making you connect with the characters. This is an absolute read. I then read The Devil Wears Scrubs by Frida McFadden, and I love a good Frida McFadden book. This was not it. She does a great thriller. This was like Grey's Anatomy, just not good. There was no thrill. I was waiting for it, knowing how she writes. There was none of that. Pass. Just pass. I think there's 2 books in the series, and I have no intention of reading the next one. Just pass. The Bookshop on the Corner by Jenny Colgan. This book was from my TBR jar. I don't know where this book came from, but it was on my shelf, so I pulled it and read it, and it was cute. It's about a woman in Ireland who wants to own a bookshop, and so essentially the whole book is about her creating this bookshop. There's a little bit of subplot romance. It's cute. Wasn't my favorite. Not very memorable, but it was sweet. So if you just want a light-hearted, simple read, go for this. I'm not going to say it was the best book I've ever read. It wasn't the worst book I've ever read. Yeah. Don't really have much to say. It was cute, fluffy, lighthearted. Powerless by Elsie Silver. So Kaylee thought that I would love this book, so I pulled it from my TBR jar. It was not my favorite, and I know that that's going to be quite taboo to say because I know everyone's like, Elsie Silver. I would not read another Elsie Silver book after this. So if you like allspice, not much plot, your kind of book. Those are not my kind of books. So much to say. The Fall Risk by Abby Jimenez. Yes, yes, yes. I loved this book. I love Abby Jimenez. She's amazing. This was a short story that on Kindle Unlimited you can get with book and audiobook together. It's great. And the audiobook is precious. I'm not an audiobook person, and I loved this one. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Super short story. She was able to write a full story in that amount of time. I wish it was longer. It was that good, but it was great. It's about a girl who meets this guy in her apartment complex because the maintenance man takes their stairs up to their apartment off of their landing accidentally on the wrong floor, and they're stuck for a weekend. So it's just really cute, really sweet, and hilarious. There's a lot of really funny parts. So if you have a good 2 hours, then read it. The Infinite Sea by Rick Yancey. This is the second book in the Fifth Wave series. I am obsessed with the Fifth Wave. I loved that book. This book was not my favorite. It was fine. It was fine. I'm hoping the third book, the last book in the trilogy, is a lot better. This felt like he was just trying to get a second book out there. It's not even that long. The first book is like 600 pages. This was like not even 3. So I suggest reading The Fifth Wave. Meh. Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. I loved. Without giving too much away, there's a lot of plot at the beginning that is not supposed to be known until you read it. But basically there is this world, outer world, inner world. The outer world has a disease, and a lot of them are trying to flee to the inner world. In the inner world, a girl named Sayona is trying to make herself up higher in the government. And then she finds out there's a lot of corruption in the government. A lot of magic system, really unique magic system. I've never seen anything like that before. And a lot of political intrigue. I loved it. I think you would have to like the political fantasy to really enjoy this, but there were so many plot twists. The first chapter was mind-blowing, jaw-dropping. So if you love a good, like, when you first read a book, it's a great one. The twist at the end was insane too. So definitely one to read if you like that kind of genre. My other 6-star read this month. I am obsessed. I still have not processed it. I love Haymitch. I didn't think I did. This was amazing. This just connected everything. If you love The Hunger Games, read it. If you have not read The Hunger Games, read The Hunger Games and then read this book, because you will not be disappointed. You might cry the whole time, but you will not be disappointed. Between this and The Great Alone, I think I might have found my top 2 books of the year, and it's not even April. The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I read this because it was really, really popular, and it was cute. It was cute. I wouldn't suggest it. I mean, if you want a cute little rom-com, maybe. And I can see why people like it, because there's a little, like, magic system in this that, you know, is not normally in your normal rom-coms, but it was just fine. Basically, this girl lives in this apartment that can slip you back in time 7 years, and she ends up falling in love with a man that lived in the apartment 7 years ago. It's cute, but there are much more romantic comedies that I like better. So, Fervent by Priscilla Shire was a nonfiction book. I am not a nonfiction person. It was good. I thought it was very informational, and if you like those kind of books, definitely add it. I really enjoyed it. Legendary by Stephanie Garber. I don't know what to say about this book. I read Caraval like 4 years ago before I got into fantasy, and I hated it. But I really, really want to read the Ballad of Never After series, and you have to read the series first. So I was like, I'm going to give it a second try. I didn't like fantasy at the time. I'll see if maybe I like it now. I still didn't like it. And I know a lot of people love this series. I don't know what it is. I don't like it. I found it really boring. I didn't connect to it. Will I read the third book? To be continued. Will I read Ballad of Never After? I would like to. So we'll see. We'll see. But overall, a great reading month. 2 6-star reads in 1 month is pretty fantastic. I had some misses, but overall a really good month. So let's hope that April is just as good.